Hello and welcome. My name is John Gherkin. I work with Enriching Students as an onboard specialist and in the sales and training division as well. I'd like to first of all thank you for taking the time to look at this video. What we're trying to do is just establish some solutions to some of the challenges you might be facing with remote or distant learning setup and scheduling for your students. But first of all, our hearts and thoughts go out to each and every one of you. We can only imagine the challenges each of our schools are facing at this difficult time. We hope this note, this video, finds you healthy and safe as well. Now, the current situation for continuing education for students we recognize is very fluid. Many schools are still working on the best solution to meet with students in an extended learning opportunity, distant learning, or remote learning capacity. So with that, we'd like to just offer some ideas that Enriching Students may be a source or solution for you to manage this scheduling process. And so we've put together a list of some question and answers. My goal in this video is to present the question and then do a screen share so you can actually see how your school might accommodate this as a solution. And again, there are so many different situations that are used throughout the country using our software, and your approach for extended learning or remote distant learning scheduling may be different and unique to you. So first of all, it's probably necessary for you to use some sort of video conferencing site like Zoom, Skype, Google Hangouts, or some similar cloud-based platform. With this type of application, we hope that Enriching Students may be a solution to actually schedule or communicate the remote learning session. As an example, you could schedule a student in our application, email the student with a link to the appointment that you've made and how they could log in using Zoom or Google Hangout or Skype or similar application. So can the staff use Enriching Students to schedule these sessions? Would be our first question to entertain. So how and why? Well, students could receive notifications just like they are at school via email, a mobile app, or simply logging into their Enriching Students account. So in looking at the screen, typically as a teacher, you would go to the scheduling screen and you might schedule a student to be with you during a session, and then you would simply email the student, or the student would log into their application and see that you've scheduled the student for a session. Now, we'll talk about that in greater detail, but the application in of itself would be used very similar to if the student was actually in the building. So sometimes you might be used to previously scheduling students out a week at a time, but because of the fluid nature of remote learning, you might need to schedule that student today or just one day in advance. Is that a possibility? Absolutely. What's nice about Enriching Students is you can use the push notification feature to let students know that today you'd like to meet with them at a particular time. You'd like to have a remote session with them. These sessions could be scheduled and notify a number of students that you'd like to share a screen session or video conference session with. And so sometimes at that point you might say, well, how many sessions could I have as a teacher? We only have one period currently set up for flexible scheduling, but now that they're home, I would want to have multiple periods. Well, again, a teacher could have multiple sessions. So this is where the screen share might be helpful to you. I've set up multiple sessions, and again, you might look at this not as a flex period any longer, but sessions during a time period. And so in this case, we've created 5 different sessions, 1 hour long, and of course that time could vary based on however you'd like. This is not set up as a restricted time. This is just to identify the time period that you're scheduling students to. And again, these times could be less or longer depending on your needs. So for session 1, it would be 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. For session 2, it would be 10:05 to 11 a.m., etc. So each time you change the session or period, that group of students would also be displayed whether they were scheduled or unscheduled for that period. Now I'm looking currently at my homeroom roster, but you would perhaps look at a remote learning session group that you've created or your subject course group that you've created. And so again, if you want to bring somebody in from your subject course during a particular session, you would just manage that period accordingly. So how did we get multiple periods set up here? That might be a question that you've never considered before. You just had set up the one period. Well, your site administrator for Enriching Students can simply go to the Site Admin tab. They'll select this, then they'll look to Manage School Periods, and from here you can change the names or add to the periods. So these are the same 5 sessions that you saw in my drop-down menu. I've created these and made them active and saved them. And this is important. Each session that you create or period that you create, you'd want to make sure it's active and then save that session. Once that's accomplished, you would have the 5 periods. And it's quite simple. Previously you saw that I just had the 5 sessions, excuse me. Now we'll go ahead and add session 6, and that would be from perhaps 3:05 to 4 p.m. and we'll go ahead and make that active and save it, and it will give you a prompt that this is happening and you've just added a 6th period. So now when I go back to the scheduling screen, you will in fact see the 6th session. And again, when you select that, you'll see the students that you've scheduled to be with you during that session. I hope that's clear and helpful. So adding periods could help you manage that. It could be that you're going to handle those through your student management system. But again, if you create the sessions, they could be flexible, they could be very fluid, you could change them after a couple of weeks. You might realize the time periods that you've selected as a school need to be adjusted. Again, this would be a global setting for everyone. And so all teachers would use these sessions available. Now, if I'm a teacher and I'm not available for one of these time periods, how can I block that? Or perhaps I only want to do 2 sessions in a day, maybe 4 sessions a different day. You absolutely can block those. It's very easy. You can see that I am not available Thursday, session 1, between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. How did I accomplish that? Well, that's very simple. Any teacher, you don't need to be a site admin, can go to the block date as long as your site administrator has allowed teachers to block the date. You would simply block the staff, select the staffer name, and I do have a reason required, so I do need to fill this out. You would select the period that you're not available or you'd like to block, and you could have that set up to be weekly or one of these options here. And then you'd simply block the date. If you have it run weekly, you would do a start date and an end date. And then once you've done that, you save. So once the individual staffer has been blocked, you can see those details here as well. So I've already blocked every Thursday for a period of time. And if I change that or adjust that later, I could clear that and make myself available again. So this is how a teacher can go in. Again, you would select block dates and then come here, select your name, give the reason, select the period that you'd like to block, and then save that information. And you can check it by scrolling down to the month and see the details there. And of course, you can double check it by actually going to the scheduling screen and make sure that you see the comment that you made and you are in fact blocked. What does that mean? That means that no other teacher would be able to schedule to you. The student would not be able to request or self-schedule to you during that session period as well. Okay, again, I hope that was helpful. How would my students know how to log into the cloud-based meeting platform we use? One potential feature could be that you could schedule them. And so I've created a remote learning session. These 3 students are part of a session that I'd like to do during 9 and 10 a.m. on Friday. And so I have in fact scheduled these 3 students to be with me. I've also included a comment that they can read. It would be in an email that they receive, or it would be in their application when they open it up, and I'll demonstrate that. But this is the comment, hope you're doing well. And then I have copied and pasted the information so that they can log into our session. And so the student would simply copy and paste this into a new URL, and they would open that session just a few minutes before the session signed in. I did let them know I was going to be taking attendance, so I would look forward to speaking to them then as well. Okay, so you've got the management and eventually the accountability with taking attendance. Once you've scheduled the students, this would be an example of how the student would see it if they logged into their account. They see the exact same comment, and again, they can hide that comment or view that comment accordingly. So these are other sessions that are not available. If the student wasn't scheduled, they would see that as well. And if they're not scheduled, obviously they don't need to attend anything. If they are scheduled, they would see exactly how that is. Now, I mentioned push notifications to the mobile device. I can't demonstrate that on my screen, but that would be simply prompting a message, an alert onto their mobile device, whether it's an Android or an Apple iOS application. They would see the prompt and it would say, I've scheduled you today between 9 and 10 a.m. for session 1. And they would simply open up that alert or notification, and that would take them to their mobile device, and they would see a very similar screen here to the scheduled appointment and the login information that we're going to use to create that session. So again, I hope that was helpful. I think that's a good way to manage, notify, and schedule a student. We've blocked a session or time that a teacher is not available. So can we take attendance? Absolutely. Let's just show you how that would look. So obviously I didn't schedule anybody for today, but I do have students scheduled for tomorrow. But if I were scheduling these students here, I could just go ahead and quickly do that. I'm going to do it for yesterday so that we can show and demonstrate attendance for you. And so when we go to the attendance, which is actually on the dashboard screen, we'll go to Wednesday and we should see these 3 students that were scheduled. We'll go ahead and select take attendance. And this is the session information here. Now I could include a comment that Nick was able to log in successfully. We reviewed certain content. He seems upbeat and happy, something like that. Again, the social emotional aspect of a student, especially during this time, might be very important. Once you've decided that all 3 students are available, they were active, they did participate, you can save that attendance. And again, the attendance taken would be prompted. And what would be nice about that is the data will be available to you. You can see what students were involved and engaged in a session, whether they attended or they were absent. And again, it allows you to manage and have accountability, even though it's a distant or remote learning situation. So pretty easy to take attendance. You might determine or decide not to determine levels of engagement or activity. That's totally fine. You can adjust these as well as needed. Okay, so taking attendance. Can a school admin see what teachers are scheduling sessions with students or teachers that are not scheduling with a student? If you go to the analysis page, as an admin or even as a teacher, you can see the appointments that are made by department. You can see the daily attendance. You can also see the scheduling by instructor or a 5-day schedule. So as an example, if we wanted to see the appointments that I have made for all periods or just session 1, I can run that report, and those assignments and the comments made would be in there. So you'll be able to see what students were scheduled with what teacher, and if a teacher is being active during this time period and you need to monitor that, this would allow you to analyze that data as well. You could also see the various offerings that teachers have created for their online or remote learning offerings, those could be here. Any teachers or staffers that have block dates, you could see those as well. So again, a lot of reports that can be run here to determine levels of effectiveness for your extended or remote learning sessions. Can we use our subject course rosters to schedule students? The answer is yes. It could be that your school had not previously imported those rosters for use, but in this case, you could see how beneficial it would be for me as a teacher to pull open my subject course, the students that are within, and if they're scheduled with me, that would be noted here as well. And I can quickly schedule additional students. I may not have a capacity seat count, if you will, or I may, depending on the session. Perhaps your application that you're using for this only allows so many appointments a day. You could monitor that by seat count here as well. So quickly scheduling a student, emailing them to notify them, or letting them know again by a push notification for today, I would like to see you during a particular period of time. So as a teacher, the subject course roster would be very helpful. If you have not yet imported that, there's a couple of ways that it can be done. You can pull that data from your student management system by simply going to the import roster, and you don't want to clear existing, but if you want to add additional rosters like subject course rosters, or maybe your school has created some specific roster for the extended or remote learning capacity, you could upload those rosters here very simply. If your school is a clever school, again, you would just simply provision any roster data, subject course, etc., that you would like to present. So that can be done very, very easily. All right. So that covers that. If you have any questions, we certainly would be more than happy to help. Feel free to either submit a support ticket or let us know what you'd like to do there. Can students request a session with a teacher? You'll notice that, and the answer to that is yes. You'll notice I have student requests here. What's nice about this is from home, perhaps a student would request to be involved with a particular session, and they would make a request. They could make a comment, like to join you from 9 to 10 a.m. And as a teacher, you would accept that request or reschedule or delete that request. It would be determined by what you need to do. And so what's nice about this feature is you can also turn on the request notification. So now your school could receive, or your teachers could receive, an email that a request was made. They would simply open that email up, and that would take them directly to the scheduling page where they would complete that request. So in this case, if I wanted to double check my availability, the student's availability, I could go ahead and say I would rather take you at a different session time, and then you could email that student back that that is the session that is preferred to meet with them. Okay, I hope that was helpful as well. What if we need additional user licenses to allow for additional paraprofessionals or admins to access the Enriching Students system? Obviously, at this time, we're doing very unusual things. We're happy to increase your license count for the remainder of the school year. Please just let us know, and we'd be happy to make that adjustment for your school. What if we need to extend our school year? Because each day the news has changed, we're evaluating the best approach to complete the current school year and also help our schools prepare for next school year. So in this regard, your individual feedback, overall needs are really going to be helpful for us to make the best decision. Again, how districts determine what is, quote, a school year becomes clearer. We hope to provide a response as to how we can accommodate your school's need. We're going to be extremely flexible as much as we can be, but also prepare for next year. So we understand that these are special circumstances. Please just communicate with us, and we'd love to help you. How can our staff communicate with one another, continue our professional learning communities, and things of that nature? We'd like to just make sure you are aware of our application. If you go to enrichingstudents.com, our website has some excellent resources for you. and we'd like to be able to show those to you as well. We've got resources for personalized learning. I think you'll appreciate the distance learning resources that we have here, as well as the tool Enriching Teachers. Now you'll notice that Enriching Teachers is free to manage your teams for distance learning. If you'd like to request free use, please select this, and we'd be happy to send out and set up an account for you and your school. This is again, cloud-based system that allows you to schedule sessions with teachers as groups. You can have a meeting agenda and create that session together so that you can meet together and work together and identify the students that have a particular need as well there. And again, the distance learning resources site here as well offers some nice additional tools, both for curriculum, communication, and just facts about COVID-19, as well as some resources to on the lighter side of managing anxiety and stress related to this. There's just so many ways that we can use our application, the Enriching Students application, to assist you, but we recognize that there is a lot of information to cover, and it could be very challenging for you to disseminate what the best approach for your particular school would be. If you feel you'd benefit from a session with one of our onboarding specialists, please go ahead to the enrichingstudents.com website. Go ahead and click schedule a demo at a time and day convenient for you and your staff. It is a challenging time for everyone. We're happy to be a hub for sharing your great ideas. If you're using a method that it's proven effective and you'd like to share this, we'd like you to share that with us. We'd love to disseminate and dispense that out to other schools that we work with. So I hope this brief video overview was helpful to you. We would love to be able to assist you in helping manage and schedule appointments with your students. We recognize that this is a very difficult time for so many. So again, our thoughts are with you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly at john@enrichingstudents.com, john@enrichingstudents.com by email, or you can reach out to Aaron@enrichingstudents.com, AARON@enrichingstudents.com. We'd love to hear from you. We really appreciate your business and hope that this video finds you doing well and your family is safe. Thank you and have a great day.